So students will be doing chapter 1 of physics class 12, electric charges and fields. So chapter 1 class 12 physics. So we started this chapter with charging the glass rod with silk cloth and then a plastic rod, and glass rod acquired positive charge, plastic rod acquired negative charge, and then we find that like charges repel, whereas unlike charges attract each other. So we have only two types of charges, negative and positive. We have studied that in electroscope which is figure 1.2 in your books, you can see so I have this conductor and this is the knob, and then I have kept in the container this gold leaf, and as I touched it with I supply positive charge to it, then that positive charge will come here and these leaves will spread, and the spread of these leaves depends on the quantity of charge. So it means in conductors, which is also our next topic, I have significant free electrons to move inside the conductor. So I have significant free electrons to move inside the conductor. Whereas in insulator, I have no free electrons. So that is why insulators are non-conductors or bad conductors of electricity. We also call them non-conductors. Then comes our next topic, which is very important. Students, in last few years, we have questions from this topic, charging by induction. So here I have touched this metal knob and I have supplied the charge by touching this knob to this conductor, to the electroscope, But you can see charging by induction figure 1.4 in your books, which is page number 6 of NCERT. If you have not opened, please open your books. So you can see in figure A, I have two spheres. So these are two metal spheres and they are supported on insulating stands. So the stands are insulated. Now in figure B, you can see that I have bought a positively charged rod near one of the spheres. I haven't touched it to sphere A. But still, as you know, that conductors have free electrons. So those free electrons in the sphere are attracted by the positive charge. So that is why we have the negative charge on sphere A. So this we call charging by induction. So you can also see this figure over here. So you can clearly see that this negative charge. So from where, see, in atom, I have nucleus in the center. The nucleus has positive charge and I have electrons revolving around outside the nucleus. So this negative charge is the charge due to the electrons and this positive charge is due to the nucleus. So nucleus is fixed in the atom, whereas these electrons, significant number of electrons are free to move inside the conductor. So these are these electrons which were there in sphere A and B. These electrons, see, you can say 1 out of 10 to the power 13 electrons. So only one electron out of these much move. So but still this much number of electrons are significant, because these are total number of electrons are many more than this. So now I have separated the spheres. So this negative charge will spread on the sphere A, and as they are not in touch, so B charge on sphere B, positive charge will spread. So without touching the sphere, these spheres have acquired charge by the charge separation, and that separation, this charging is known as charging by induction. You can see example 1.1 also. In example 1.1, you can clearly see that I have a metal sphere and there is no charge on this metal sphere, it is neutral. Then I have bought a negatively charged rod. So what have this done? This negatively charged means the electrons. So look at this figure. So here also, due to this negative charge in this figure B, from this to this figure, so the negative electrons went away, repelled by this negative rod. So whether you have this, because positive charge is nucleus, that is fixed, so negative charges move away. Now after this, you have grounded it, you have connected a wire, this metallic sphere, and you have earthed that. So the negative charge which was over here, it went, those electrons went into the ground, and now you have removed this wire, and this rod is also taken away. So this sphere has acquired positive charge. So in the first figure we used two spheres, and here we have used only one sphere, but we have removed the charge. So that charge was removed by another sphere, but here it is grounded, so removed. So this question was asked in the board exams in the year 2019. Now next topic is basic properties of electric charge. So we have three basic properties of electric charge. So we have three important properties. First one is additivity of charges. So additivity of charges. So I have, suppose, the charge configuration plus 1e minus 2e plus 3e. So I can add them. These are scalar quantities. I can add them simply, and the net charge on the object is so the net charge on the object is plus 2. So you can simply add the charges. This is quite important. And if I add minus 2 to it, then the net charge will be 0. So what does this mean? Net charge is 0 doesn't mean that there is no charge. It means that, okay, there can be two possibilities. 0 means there can be no charge, or the possibility is that positive charge is equal to negative charge, and they cancel out each other, and the net charge is 0. So both the things can be there, but this is the thing that we deal with more frequently. Next is charge is conserved. So charge is conserved. You can neither create a charge nor you can destroy a charge. What does this mean? See, even in nuclear reactions, we have in nuclear reactions also So students, we are talking about nuclear reactions. In this nuclear reaction, you can clearly see that this electron and proton, they are inhaling, they are combining and resulting into the energy, gamma rays. So here the net charge was 0, and here also the net charge is 0. So this is what I want to say, that the net charge is conserved in an isolated system. So system must be isolated. So net charge is always conserved. Suppose a body has acquired positive charge because electrons are removed from it. If a body has negative charge, it means it has more electrons. So it is due to addition and removal of the electrons. Okay. So the third property is, which is the most important one, and the third property is quantization of charge. So quantization of charge means that the charges are, the charge on a particle is in integral multiples of the fundamental charge. So this fundamental charge is charge of electron or proton. So for proton it is plus E, for the electron it is minus E. So, and this E is equals to 1.602 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. So plus E on the proton and minus E on the electron. And what is this N? N is positive or negative integer. It can be plus minus 1, it can be plus minus 2, plus minus 3, and so on. So the charge can only be, like I have written here, I have not written, charge cannot be equal to 1.5 E. So only the discrete values in the positive or negative integrals of E take the value. So this is another important formula also. Q is equals to, so NE. Now our next topic is Coulomb's law. So Coulomb's law tells us, it describes the force acting between two charges Q1 and Q2. So we have charge Q1 over here and we have another charge Q2 over here. So this, if the charges are same, so we know that they repel each other, so they will move away from each other. And if the charges are opposite, they will move. So this is negative Q, this is positive Q. They will attract each other along the line of joining them. So that's important. Now, how much is the force? So the force applied on this is force on 2 due to 1. And here the force on 1 due to 2. So these forces, by Newton's third law, they are equal and opposite. So these forces are equal and opposite. Now, the Coulomb's law states that this force is the force between these charges. Of course, it is equal. So the magnitude of this force is given by 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught modulus Q1 Q2 by R square. So this R is the distance between them. So this is inverse square law. This epsilon naught is the permittivity of free space, and the value of epsilon naught is 8.854 into 10 raised to the power minus 12 coulomb square per Newton per meter square. I can also write it as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. So this was the value of epsilon naught. I can also write 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught as K, which is Coulomb's constant, and this equals to 9 into 10 raised to power 9. You can tell its units. What will be the units? This is Newton, so, and this R square will go there, so Newton meter square, and this Coulomb square will go down. So these are the units of K. So this epsilon naught is the permittivity of free space when there is no material in between the charges Q1 and Q2. Students, one thing we need to understand, that whenever I am talking about motion along a straight line, so there can be only two possible directions. One is positive and another is negative. So whenever I have this kind of scenario, the better way to deal with vectors is find their magnitude separately and then tell their direction. So this is what we need to do here. Find only the magnitude of the force, because we know that if the charges are same, they will repel, and if the charges are different, opposite, they will attract each other. So this is what we need to deal with in the Coulomb's law. Now further, if I want to write this law in vector form, then you have that figure which is 1.6 figure in your book. So that figure, you can clearly see that now you can clearly see in this figure that these are the charges Q1 and Q2. So students, just try to understand, this is the force on 1, the force on 2 due to 1. Now the force on 1 due to 2. So this is the thing that you need to, so this force is on 2. Now we have this for relative velocity also, velocity of 2 with respect to 1. So the first number in the subscript is related, so force on 1, velocity of 2. So this thing we need to keep in our mind. So let us write force on 2 due to 1. So in vector form, this is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught is K. I can write it as K. So K and Q1, Q2 divided by R square. And what will be the direction? This is important thing. So direction of F21 is this direction. This direction. So what is this direction? So this is origin. The position of Q1 is given by position vector R1. The position of Q2 is given by position vector R2. And R21 means R21. So again 21, velocity 21. So velocity of second with respect to first. So this is how we calculate it. Now what about R21? Same way, R2 minus R1. So this is a relative velocity. We know the formula. And similarly, So here also only R2 means what? Only V2 means what? Velocity of second when I am watching the second object from the ground. Similarly here, what is R2 means? R2 means the position vector from origin. What is R21 means? Position vector of second with respect to first, means here I was sitting in car 1 and watching car 2, watching the velocity of car 2. Here I am pointing object 2, position of object 2 from 1. So from 1 to 2. This is what R21 is, even if we understand it logically. Then by triangle law, we can say that R2 is equals to R1 plus R21. Yes, this plus this is equals to this. This is triangle law. And from here, I can write it as R1 to R21, sorry, R21, R1 will go that side, R2 minus R1. So this is the same thing. So students, how do I write vector? So this vector on this side equals to there must be vector on this side. And what is the way to write a vector? Way to write a vector is write its magnitude and then multiply it with the unit vector. So this is the magnitude of the vector and I have multiplied it with a unit vector which is telling me the direction. So because its magnitude is 1, so this is, so what is the direction? So that's the magnitude I have written. But what is the direction? Direction I will be writing with unit vector. So what is the unit vector that I would be writing it? So that will be R21, because this is the direction of R21. So unit vector R21 is the direction. And here also I will be writing this distance as R21 in same way, but that's the magnitude and square of it. So that's how I write it in vector form. Okay, so you can clearly see that if Q1, Q2 is greater than 0, means it is positive, it means like charges, both positive or both negative. So then they will repel each other. And if the opposite charges are there, one of them is negative, it means their product will be less than 0 and they will attract each other. So this is all about the Coulomb's law. Now suppose instead of two charges, I have multiple charges between them. So then what about with the force between the multiple charges? So forces between the multiple charges. So force between the multiple charges, I have charge Q1, Q2, Q3 and lot other charges up to Qn. So how will I write it? I will write force on 1. So the net force on 1 is equals to sum of the individual forces acting on, so that this is the net force on 1, net force on 1 on Q1. So the net force on Q1 due to Q2, Q3, Q4 and so on. So F1, so net force on 1 is equals to sum of the individual forces acting on 1, that is force on 1 due to 2, force on 1 due to 3, force on 1 due to, if there is Q4, of course, force on 1 due to 4 plus and so on up to force on 1 due to n. So this is the net force, and this I am adding them, this principle where, so here the individual forces are unaffected due to the presence of other charges. So what does this mean? This means F12 is unaffected due to Q3, Q4 and Qn. It means that F13 is unaffected due to Q1, Q2, Q4, Qn. So this is, so when the individual forces are unaffected due to the presence of other forces, I call this principle of superposition. So this principle of superposition. And I can simply write this F1 as, so F1 can be simply written as, so there will be constant, so K will come outside, and I will be writing as F12 as Q1 Q2 by R12 square, and then unit vector R12 plus Q1 Q3 upon R13 square and R13 unit vector, and so on. And what will be there at the end? Q1. So instead of 3 there will be n, and here also instead of 3 I will have n, and this here also I will have n. So that is the force acting on the Q1, and I can further write it as taking the another constant outside. So the Q1 is common to all of them, so Q1 outside, and then I will be writing further Q2, or what I can do further is I can write them summations, sum of all of them, i.e. so okay, see, I need to find out what is constant and what is variable in all of them. So first of all, let us write the constant values. So Q1 is constant in all of them. Yes. So let me write Q1 here, which is constant. Now this Q is again there. Yes, but it is changing. 2, 3, n. Okay. So this is Q, and it is changing. So it is changing. So let I be the variable which is changing. Okay. So I starts from 2 to n. Okay. Right. So Q1, now this is R cap 1 2, R cap 1 3, R cap 1 n. So what is changing? 2, 3 up to n. Right. So here I will be writing it as R1 I. So whatever be the variable, instead of variables write I. This is how we need to write it after summation. So Q1 students I have already taken common, so I need not to write Q1 again, because Q1 I have already taken outside. So now divided by, this is R12 square, R13 square, R1 square. So R, yes, that is common. Yes, this is also common. But this is 2, 3, n. So this is varying. So whatever be the varying value, 2 to n. So write it over here. So that is how I have. So students, this question sometimes asked, this derivation in the exam. So this is how we can do it. So always remember that if you want to do it with the parallelogram law, that figure is also given in your book. So you have to add two vectors at a time. So add F12 plus F13 by parallelogram law, and then whatever be the resultant, with that resultant add F14, and then whatever be the resultant, add with it further the forces, and at the end you will get F1. So adding two forces at a time, adding two vectors at a time by parallelogram law, and adding the resultant with another vector, this way also we can add. But this is the how we do it algebraically, this is how we do it geometrically. And this figure is also given in your book as figure 1.8. So students, now we have example 1.6 and 1.7, which is again very important. So in example 1.6 we can see that there are three charges, Q1, Q2 and Q3. So these three charges they are equal. So they are equal. Q1 is equals to Q2 is equals to Q3 is equals to Q. That is given to us, that all three of them are same and they are on the vertices of a triangle. So these are the three vertices of a triangle. So this is equilateral triangle. So the distance between Q1 and Q2 is equal to the distance between Q2 and Q3 and is equal to the distance between Q. Let this triangle be ABC. So this triangle ABC, and let the length of this equilateral triangle is L, L and L. Now I have placed a charge Q here at the centroid of the triangle. So centroid where the medians meet. So here the medians, perpendicular bisector, angle bisector, all are the same. So let us draw perpendicular bisectors. So this point where all these three meet is the centroid, and I have placed this capital Q charge over here. So the charge they are all positive, so this Q is also positive. So the charge must be same. It is not equal to Q1, Q2, Q3. This is different. It has a different magnitude, but it is of same type, same sign. Now we need to find out force on Q due to Q1, Q2 and Q3. So this is what I need to find. Now see, students, we know the formula that force on Q, if I want to find, that will be equal to force on Q due to the first, and then force on Q due to second, and then force on Q due to third, Q3. So I can write it as F is equals to F1 plus force due to 1, force due to Q2 and force due to Q3 also. That's the same thing. It is as per your convenience. So what is the force between the two charges? So if this is suppose Q1 and Q2, what do I need to know about them? So force between them is K Q1 Q2 divided by distance between them. So I need this distance and square of the distance. So that is the magnitude of the force. So here the force is between Q and Q1, Q and Q2 and Q and Q3. So the very simple thing is I need to know this length. What is this length? I know Q1 and Q2. The only thing I know to this R means the distance between Q1 and Q, the distance between Q2 and Q, and the distance between Q and Q3. And all three distances are same. We know that this centroid divides the median in the sides whose ratios are 2:1. So this is 2, this is 1. So let us find out what this length is. So you can find out this length, or it is easy to find this length also. That's the same thing. So this length is L. This is what I am interested in finding. Even I am interested in finding 2/3 of it, and this whole length, and then this is half. This is perpendicular bisector L by 2. So this is L by 2. So what is this side? So this side, this is, let it be AD. So AD is equals to under the root L square minus L by 2 whole square. So hypotenuse square is equals to, perpendicular square is equals to under the root hypotenuse square minus base square. and that comes out to be, so L square plus L square by 4. So this is minus. So this comes out to is L is common, and 1 minus 1 by 4 is root 3 by root 4, and root 4 is 2. So this whole length is L root 3 by 2, but I am interested in only this much. This is, so center divide the median in 2:1, so this is 2 and this is 1. So I want to get 2 parts out of 3. So this is 2/3. This much is 2/3 of this. So this whole and 2/3 of it. So this is what I was searching for, this R, this distance, and this distance. Now this was the only thing. So not so much of physics, but little bit of geometry here. So 2 will cancel out, and I will get 3 upon root 3, or if I want to cancel it out, I will get root 3 here. So this distance is L by root 3. So now this question is pretty simple. So now what will be the net force? Net force will be net force on Q will be given by F1. So what is F1? K. So force on F due to, so let this point here O. Okay, so let this point here be O. So K, Q1, Q2. So force on 1 here due to Q1 on F. So that is F1 I am writing here. So that is Q1 into Q divided by this distance, square of this distance. This distance is L by root 3. So L by root 3 whole square. And then what is the direction? Because here I am writing it in vector. So this is a vector addition. So what is it along? So this force is along. So they are same charges. So they will repel each other. So it will along. The direction is, so I want to know the force on Q. So force on Q, see, look at this diagram again. This is Q1, this is Q2, Q, and the distance between them is L by root 3. So I am calculating the force on Q due to Q1. So what's the direction? It will be repelled. So it will be repelled in this direction, it will be repelled in this direction. This point is O and this point is A. So the force on Q is along AO. Okay, plus similarly force on Q due to Q2. So obviously again this is Q, this is Q2, this is B, this is O. So it will be in this direction. So along BO. So K. So this is F2, force on 2 due to Q2. So K, Q2 Q divided by, again the same thing, distance is same, and that is along, this force is along BO. And similarly we can write the force on Q due to Q3, that is K, Q3Q upon L by root 3 whole square along CO. Now look at these three forces. One thing is that as Q1 is equals to Q2 and is equals to Q3, so the magnitudes of all these forces are same. And look, they are along AO, means in, if this is O, this is along AO, means in this direction, along AO, and this force is in this direction along BO, and this force is in this direction along CO. So these are the three forces. What is the angle between them? 120 degree. So angle between them is 120 degree. So this is the result that I need to know, that R resultant of the two vectors, if you remember the formula, that is equals to under the root a square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta. And if this theta is equals to 120 degree, that is equals to 1 by 2, and this a and b, these are the equal forces. So I can write it as a square plus 2a square minus 1 by 2, that is cos 120. This cancels out. It is minus a square. So minus a square also cancels out with one of the a square, and this is a square, that is equals to a. So the resultant is the same force. Let this force be F. So it is the same force as this force. So force remains the same, and as these are same forces, so the means symmetry, I will take 60 degree. We can calculate it also. And so now this resultant is, so the resultant of these two forces, which is along this and this, so the resultant of these two forces, I can write as K Q, because all these are equal to Q. So let me write it as Q. KQ upon L by root 3 whole square along. So this is now OA, and I need to add it with K Q upon L by root 3 whole square along AO. So basically I am adding these two forces. So this is along OA, this one, and earlier one, this one was along in this direction. So they are equal and opposite. So the net force on Q is equals to 0. So students, similarly, just one thing you need to understand, you just need to apply this formula plus little bit of geometry plus this result you need to know, and very easily you can calculate. Similarly, you can do example 1.7. Thank you for watching this class. I will take further on with this chapter tomorrow in the live class, same time at 7 p.m. on this YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Please subscribe the channel so that you will get information about the new videos.